Please welcome Snowflake's Chief Executive Officer, Sridhar Ramaswamy.
Hello, builders. There are moments in technology that feel like a hinge point in history. And there's no doubt in my mind that we are living through one right now. Artificial intelligence is the most transformative technology of our generation. And that's something that feels real with each passing day. And it's a result of decades of research in machine learning, deep learning, the development of revolutionary architectures like transformers, and the limitless scale of cloud computing, all coming together at one point in time. Today, we are privileged to have two of the central figures of that convergence on stage with us to discuss how the next decade is going to shape up. First, we'll have a man who is arguably the world's most influential educator and pioneer in artificial intelligence. Andrew Ng, Executive Chairman of Landing AI and founder of deeplearning.ai. As the founding lead of the Google Brain team, his work resulted in one of the most iconic breakthroughs of the deep learning era. Transformers, of course, demonstrating that a massive neural network could learn to recognize cats simply by watching YouTube videos. But his greatest impact may lie in his mission to democratize knowledge. As the co-founder of Coursera and founder of deeplearning.ai, he has personally taught and inspired millions of people, turning a complex field into an accessible skill for a global generation. Andrew, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Sridhar. I feel like we've known each other more years than I care to remember. It's always good to see you.
It's great to see you, as always. And joining us from Seattle is Swami Sivasubramanian, Vice President of Agentic AI at Amazon Web Services and a member of Amazon's senior team. At AWS, Swami previously led the teams that built foundational services like Amazon SageMaker and Amazon Bedrock. They empower hundreds of thousands of businesses to move AI from a proof of concept out into the real world. He currently leads the teams building AWS agentic solutions like Amazon Bedrock Agent Core. He's also served as a member of the National Artificial Intelligence Advisory Committee, which was tasked with advising the President of the United States on topics related to the National AI Initiative. Welcome, Swami.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sridhar. Excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
This is going to be a fun conversation. Well, we're going to start off with the ongoing debate about competitive advantage in AI, whether it comes from data that is used to feed the models or data that sits outside that the models can take advantage of, or the models themselves, or the code that sits on top of the models and data. And as you know, I tell people, is like, if you don't like what the current conventional wisdom is, wait for a couple of months and there'll be a new conventional wisdom. What is your best insight on where things will go?
Actually, that's a good one. I think most are changing in the AI era. ChatGPT has a very strong consumer brand, and so that consumer brand recognition is defensible. And elsewhere, I feel like often the nature of the moat is the nature of the industry rather than the nature of AI technology. So are you using AI to accelerate to build a two-sided marketplace, and that could be very defensible? Are you using AI to accelerate to build brand benefits or something else? I find that developers, we switch tools all the time, and so the moats for developer tools, some of the LLMs, may not be that weak, because what I see is if there's a better LLM, we switch API calls on a dime, so the API moat is weaker. So I think when I look at businesses, I often analyze the moat as function of the industry rather than function of the AI technology. I wish I had a better answer than that.
Well, that is fascinating, because you're also saying that the things that we think of as conventional defensive moats for example, a consumer brand recognition for a certain task, I think all of us continue to believe that'll continue to be true. In other words, ChatGPT having 1 billion plus users and kind of becoming the default go-to place for someone wanting a general purpose chat experience. I think that itself is interesting. And your point about marketplaces, well, yes, they might be AI powered, but the marketplace itself is going to have staying power is also interesting.
Oh, but one weird thing,
Yeah.
the software moat is weakening. Previously, if you had a huge team to build a piece of software over many years, that was really hard to replicate.
Yeah.
With AI-assisted coding, that moat is weaker than it used to be.
Fascinating. Swami, you get a frontline view into how this is evolving. What do you think?
I think Andrew phrased it right. The consumer one, let's say we keep it aside because consumer, it becomes a daily habit, whichever is the daily habit is going to always be the one on different kinds of app, what we are used to. But on the enterprise front, it's increasingly less about the model, more about actually which one has the best API. And then what I see on the enterprise front is now which one provides the best value for the business to either improve the top line or the bottom line. And as Andrew put it, now the rate of development, the speed at which people can build remarkable solutions is starting to increase, I would say, by at least a factor of 2 to 3x. And now that means our ability to innovate in either shipping net new features or decreasing costs is really coming down to a really good prioritization on the business on not just building POCs for the coolness of it, but prioritizing what matters to your customers and your business, and then B, actually also really focusing on getting all your data architecture right and then building all these AI solutions, choosing a right flexible model, all these things, then you're setting yourselves up for the future where you're able to move forward. Now, competitive mode, typically people think of it across comparing model providers. To me, the best competitive one, if you're in a business, in an industry, is it really comes down to your, the best model is your business model. So what is it really that is going to be? What is it that you're really going to actually drive value for your customers and for your business and really work backwards towards it?
Yeah, and that's also a super interesting point because over the past 10 to 20 years, SaaS was the ultimate business model because people loved the predictability of things like subscription software. I think what we are seeing happen is that partly AI solutions have sometimes switched over from being subscription-oriented to more consumption-oriented products. Any thoughts on how that'll shake out and whether that becomes a point of disruption, especially given your founder's famous "your margins, my opportunity" ethos?
I'd say, there are a few things. There are always going to be certain tools that are going to be subscription-oriented business, such as like if it is user-driven. Users like predictability and it scales with users. And you're seeing this not just in like personal assistant space, even dev tool space. They tend to be user-driven because the costs and the price aligns with user. However, as we scale to like virtual autonomous agents, that work on behalf of users or actually pick up tasks that are completely disassociated to number of users, but more the rate of data flowing in and so forth, you're going to see a lot more elastic, like what tended to be like more cloud-like pricing model, pay as you go as well. And I expect this industry is going to keep evolving in many ways because the kind of workflows, what are now automation, what is possible, because not just because of LLMs, but what years or decades of work that has happened in cloud and on the data APIs, and now what we have done, not just on the cloud, what Snowflake has done and various others. Now suddenly having the serverless access to all this and being able to run these computation elastically is opening up so much in many, many interesting ways.
Yeah. Andrew, thoughts?
No, a thing that I was reminded, last night I was at the airport about to board a flight back to San Francisco when I got a notification that the plane I was about to board did not have Wi-Fi. And the first thought that went through my head was, shoot, I won't be able to code on this flight. Right? And it made me realize how dependent I've become on, Cloud Code and OpenAI Codex. And it was actually not a good flight. I couldn't work the way I usually do on an airplane flight. And I think we've gone from subscription-based pricing to consumption-based pricing, partly because it's so productive to use these tools that instead of like a $50 a month or whatever common SaaS pricing, many of my developers spend like hundreds of dollars a month, sometimes more than $1,000 a month, and we love it because I even want to use even more of it. So it's been interesting watching the evolution of AI. One of the questions people often ask is there a bubble? And what I'm seeing is many of developers, we built tools for ourselves first. And so I think AI for agentic coding, that's working really well. And I hope this is a harbinger of similar massive productivity improvements in other sectors as well. But so far the progress in software, as software developers, we built tools for ourselves first, that's been very encouraging.
Yeah, love it. I'm the same, even though I have to make sure I don't start on something getting into a busy workday because I then get very distracted through all of my meetings, which is not a good outcome for the folks that want to talk to me.
No, CEO Snowflake, coding all the time. That's wonderful. Inspiration for your customers. But in all seriousness, I think here's the CEO of Snowflake writing code. One thing I think we need to get all of the world to is I think everyone should learn to code, not just folks like the three of us, but the bar to coding is now lower than it ever has been.
That's right.
People that code, be it CEOs or marketers, recruiters, not just software engineers, will really get more done than ones that don't.
To me, that's the fascinating and fun part of AI. I've always loved making memes, but most of the time I was restricted to taking an image on the internet and slapping text onto it. But now you can create a custom meme for every occasion. It's a different kind of creativity. It's still amazing.
I do follow you on social media, so I'll be seeing some.
Well, so there's actually a deeper economic point here, which is that subscription software, whether it's consumer or SaaS, was in a very, very basic way driven by the zero marginal cost nature of software. Not completely true, but effectively true. In other words, it didn't take a whole lot more for Salesforce to sell you 1,000 subscriptions versus 5,000 subscriptions. It was very, very similar. The thing that is unique about this moment is that when it comes to coding agents, for example, costs are a real thing. And so it is not only is it difficult to provide like subscription software because the costs are potentially unbounded, part of the difficulty also is that not everybody knows how to use AI, and the value that they get from subscription software has also not always been there with things like the Office Copilot example. But as open source innovation starts to drive the marginal cost of access to models down to zero, how do you think this equation changes? Or is it going to be the case that there are always cutting edge models that are not open source and that are going to cost a certain something to access?
So I think because the nature of work by human intelligence or artificial intelligence is diverse, it's pretty clear we'll have a range of models from small language models to mid-sized ones to large language models. Right now in the US, fortunately or unfortunately, often the frontier model remains closed, but one tier down is open. And the dynamics with China are very interesting, with China now releasing many of the leading open models. So how this plays out remains to be seen. I think a lot of the value will accrue to the application layer. I mean, it's got it. The applications had better be even more valuable than the technology infra layer. And supporting open weight models reduces the odds of there being gatekeepers at the AI foundation model layer that would be choke points to innovation. And I'm actually kind of bummed that America isn't able to release even more open weight models. And a lot of this is coming from China. So it's still very dynamic.
Do you think
Yeah.
that's go for it, Swami? Love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I was going to chime in and say, like, the open weights model is one aspect, but irrespective of whether open weight or closed weight, one of the primary reason these coding agents, what you see, their costs, where they are accumulating costs, or that affects either the customer price or the provider margin, is really coming down to inference costs, how long, how much it takes, and so forth. So. And right now, if you see what's going on is that models get more and more accurate in their code quality and its ability to actually produce not just better code, but also more accurate, passes more unit tests, and have better coverage in terms of reasoning capabilities and whatnot. But then as the models get actually better and better, their costs are also increasing in some ways. You would think that means very few applications are also leveraging them, but it turns out developers find so much benefit in moving to the bigger and bigger model too. But the real innovation, you're starting to see it in Kiro or Cursor or everybody else, is that these tools are starting to pick the right model in the background so that they don't always spend more on the biggest model in terms of inference costs, so that they can save money on behalf of the developers who are using it to automate too. So I do think it is going to be an evolving landscape, and open models are going to play a really, really significant role in that one too.
To me, what's been fascinating is that if you fix model quality or a particular model, for example, absolutely inference costs are going down pretty dramatically. But the frontier models are able to do so much more that demand for them is equally high. This is a pretty funny dynamic compared to, let's say, previous generations with cores and stuff like that, which were a little bit more linear. You could run the same program, it just went faster. I think what is unique here is that there are newer things that are substantially better, and that drives a lot of usage.
Yeah.
Well,
we're so supply constrained as an industry, which is a wonderful problem to have, right? Usually you worry about demand.
That is so true. Okay, so let's move from strategy to engineering, the nuts and bolts of how we get things done, and talk about what winning AI architectures for software tends to look like. They have a choice. If you're a product leader, you can decide, and Swami already touched on this a little bit. Should a developer just use a public API, knowing that it's going to get cheaper, hopefully better over time, or should they be investing in bringing specialized models to their data? And at Snowflake, we sort of skip the problem, as does AWS, by saying, we'll offer you a suite of models. Yes, you can use this API. And in many cases, we'll just give you the cheapest, best model for a particular task, for example. But if you were to be thinking of investing in, like, basically AI solutions for your applications or new AI applications themselves, how would you think about your API strategy and what you should rely on?
So for a lot of new innovative projects, so my team at AI Fund build a lot of new startups. The biggest challenge is identifying and building a product that customers love, not cost.
You're saying product market fits the ultimate.
Product market fit first. So what I'll often do is just do whatever, just work to build that good product. And then sometimes we've been fortunate to hit product market fit, and then the costs start climbing, and then it starts to look scary in terms of the cost. But at that time, we often find engineering methods to then bend the cost curve back down. So, there's one other thing I tend to do. We do tend to do a little bit of work upfront to architect for choice, for downstream model optionality, which you can often do with just a little bit of extra work. And then, frankly, the costs come down so fast enough that is a wonderful problem to have, which I have had a couple times. But not that I wish I had that problem more often. There were so many users that that the costs are climbing. It's wonderful you can get to that problem.
Yeah, Frank, our previous CEO, used to say that product market fit is like a life force. It's magical, and no one knows quite how to create it, but we all recognize it when we create it. Of course, all of the world's startups build on top of AWS. What do you think? What are you seeing as the trends?
It's a great, actually, I summarize it well. I would say first, build delightful products and then have a problem that you want to solve on scaling. But you have to be smart about it. These are actually learnings where you say model choice should be baked in. So that you have the ability to switch models, because there might be different parts of components in your application where you're spending a lot more on token costs than you originally planned. Because reality is when people test their products in a beta or in the lab, they think certain workload patterns come in. But then it turns out you're consuming a lot more input tokens or output tokens, and then all your cost model goes out the window. So then you feel like, hey, now I understand the pattern. For these kind of workflows in my app, I can actually fine tune and produce a more specialized model, which will decrease my costs. Or you can actually say, I can tune the application to improve my prompt cache hit rate from like 60 to 90%. And all these are like good levers. So I almost see the teams, I kind of see all the startups going through first bake-in model choice, which was the premise behind it's like bedrock to begin with, just like what you did, Sridhar. And then once you have it, then work through various tools that you have in your arsenal, all the way from like tune it such a way that you get the best-in-class prompt cache. And then in some cases, they may not be good enough, and you have to isolate certain things where costs are completely non-linear, but you have opportunity to use tools like fine-tuning, distillation, and many more. This is where, tools like these techniques are going to be pervasive. I remember last week I was in a university where I was telling them, just like we used to teach all upcoming students about like how to use compilers and performance optimization, now we need to teach them how to do distillation and fine tuning. Like it's just the thing people will do in the future as well. And I do think these are things that I almost see every startup looking at it as once they hit the PMF.
Yeah, actually, can I just say, I think that this optionality is really important when the future is uncertain, right? If you know exactly what the capabilities, the pricing a year from now, then fine, sign a 5-year contract or whatever. But we don't know. So, and then I find that in terms of ensuring optionality, one of the design choices that, open source package AI Suite helps with that, the API level package I worked on, but then also owning your own data layer turns out to be a really important part of that.
That's right.
So there are a lot of SaaS vendors, right? I won't name any, but whenever you hire a SaaS vendor, many of them will try to create a silo inside your own organization.
I call it box in a cloud.
I see. That's interesting. Yeah. So I find that, of course, you need some place to host your data, but if you can control your own data and hire vendors to operate on your data, it gives you a lot more optionality to then swap vendors, do other things with it in the future.
But the great feedback, though, to all of the builders that are listening is that age-old truth, which is pay attention to a few key architecture choices, but be like model optionality. But beyond that, focus very much on creating customer delight, on achieving product market fit. That sounds like advice that is absolutely relevant even today. Obviously, 10, 20 years ago, we used to say things like, don't optimize too early. Like you just need to be approximately right. You should be focused on product market fit. It just comes back in a slightly different form. Yeah. Well, we talked about data silos and so on. One of the interesting things, of course, about today's AI world is an explosion of new ways to get to functionality like MCP endpoints. And making things interoperable, whether it is to discover semantic information or to understand what a piece of data is about, or to be able to have agents call other agents with the right permissions, especially in an enterprise context, is super important. What do you think that we as an industry should be doing to facilitate this? Because I actually see that as a lever that will drive increased adoption. And the less clarity that there is about things like security and governance, the less broad adoption there is going to be because people are going to get scared. What do you think we should do?
I think all that is true, and I think one mega trend is was spent last 20 years. You guys have been a big part of this, architecting structured data.
That's right.
And a big unlock is going to be unstructured data that AI can finally make sense of. And I have a weird focus on one type of unstructured data. It turns out, I think the single most valuable form of unstructured data, dark data sitting in all of our businesses, is PDF files.
Yep.
I know it sounds dumb, because we have so many of them. So I've been actually really excited about some of the work that my friend Dan Maloney has been doing on agentic doc extraction.
Yep.
To take these massive troves of PDF files in finance, healthcare, giant financial tables, healthcare forms sitting in there, tons of value, and you can extract it out with agentic doc extraction. The number of use cases I'm seeing skyrocket. There are other types of unstructured data that are valuable too, but PDF files has been a surprisingly big one.
I make this dad joke all the time. I ask people, do you know what my most powerful PDF search engine was for much of my life?
What?
Command F.
Oh, wow.
To find the next word in the PDF document. I mean, that's pretty much
that's
all.
true.
You open it up and
true.
look for a word.
No, and I'll tell you, it's beautiful. You download these, SEC financial documents with these ridiculously giant tables, merge cells, complex formatting, and now AI, agentic doc extraction, just extracts the entire table that you can then give to an analyst or use AI to process, and it's actually beautiful when you see what it can do.
Yeah. Well, so we'll be coming up on time, and I wanted to make sure that we addressed a question which will be really important for all the developers and wannabe developers that are going to be listening. The world of AI is kind of scary. Most young developers I know, like I have sons that are 24 and 26, they kind of worry in the back of their head about whether they're going to be irrelevant in the near future. And if you are attending college or graduating from college, that's a big worry as well. Already we are seeing early signs like the unemployment rate for college grads is higher than before. What advice would the two of you have for how to make yourself future ready if, say, you're a teenager or in your early 20s? Swami, let's start with you.
Sure. I would say first, somewhere along the way, I think we as an industry confused programming and computer science and made it sound synonymous. I do think the core fundamentals of computer science are still very much in demand on how to build amazing compilers, how to build a great database query planner, or how do you actually store the right level of structure on the bits, and think through a lot of those. And understanding it is super important because even though these AI agents, coding agents, are going to generate massive amount of actually code really fast, you still want to be able to comprehend and leverage, is this actually meeting what you need? So let alone you want to enable them by building the next generation best-in-class processor to all actually building the best compiler and various others. What it is going to do, and this is true in the history of software industry, is when there used to be probably around 100,000 engineers who could write assembly code, and then C and C++ said, don't worry about registers and memory. You can code in logic using C.
Yep.
The number of developers increased, and same happened with now Java came along, said, don't worry about memory management, and then it took care of it. Then number of developers increased. But I'm pretty sure there used to be a small dip during each of these time and nervousness. I have a suspicion now we are at a similar cusp where everyone is going to be a builder, irrespective of whether they have been in the weeds day in and day out or habitual coders like three of us in the weekend or during our downtime, but now anyone can be a builder, and that is going to be a remarkable change in pace of innovation. But I would say still, if you are going to college, focus on core fundamentals, on all the core CS fundamentals, let alone all the math and physics and statistics. Somehow they always get overlooked. But if you see those fundamentals really help you understand these things to the new era as well.
I love that. Back to basics. Andrew, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful time to build.
It's something you're passionate about.
The set of things that are now possible to build with less time, low cost is much greater than ever before. So I think computer scientists, CS majors, I think uptake on unemployment is because I think our universities haven't adapted the curricula fast enough to enable coding. Even I can't hire enough people that really know AI. But on the flip side, we've reached the point where I think, as we're saying, it makes sense for everyone to learn to code. Don't code by hand. Don't do the old way. Get AI to help you to code, and that will make people in all job functions much more productive and have more fun.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I want to extend a profound thank you to both of you. Thank you for your generosity, your candor, and your wisdom in sharing your perspectives on a technology that is actively shaping the world. The clarity you provided has been invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you.
Builders, the future is not something we are waiting for. It is something we are all now, more than ever, equipped to create. Enjoy the rest of the conference and go build. Thank you.